You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off.
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility.
We have a fault. Get to the chopper! Andy! There's the flesh wound.
I am the father.
Godzilla's back again. I must do something. Godzilla comes back again? I guess things are about as bad as they could get.
Judging by Godzilla's latest position, the nearest one would be here.
It'll be a disaster even if only one of those plants is destroyed.
Here is where we'll launch our attack.
It's only a minute bacterium we're producing by genetic engineering. A very simple life form. But still, if research goes on the way it is, genetic technology is sure to produce a monster far worse than Godzilla. What kind of science you call this? Are you proud of this?
And welcome back to the next episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. This is episode 33. And, of course, you've got Sludge here, my co-host across from me.
It's Mark.
Our other brother from Texas and side co-host.
Ruben.
And our special guest again. This is the second time. No, is this the second or third? Introduce yourself, special guest.
Third. This is the third episode.
Not so special guest now, but RJ.
RJ is back with us. Yeah, is this the third one, RJ?
Third.
Yes, this is the third one. Yep.
That's right. You did Terror, then 85,
you did
and then
85,
this one.
Terror, and then 85, and now here.
I couldn't remember if you did the 74 Megagodzilla or not. I was like, it's like
You didn't remember because I tore 85 apart, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's what it was.
I was like, he kind of trashed 85 on you there.
My caring of RJ's movie critiques now is just gone completely after that. No, I'm just kidding. So, but yeah, so we were all back, father and son duos again for another Godzilla film, and this time around we've got the second Heisei Godzilla film, even though technically it's the first Heisei because it was the first one made in the actual Heisei political era, but it is the second Heisei Godzilla film.
Yeah.
Does anyone else really care?
Yeah,
no, but I'm gonna point that out anyways. So we've got a big film here because this.
So when we get to the third one, are you gonna say that stuff?
I am.
Again?
This is the third Heisei,
okay.
but technically the second Heisei.
There we go.
I'm gonna keep up on those. But so this one's a big one for a lot of reasons. We got Godzilla vs. Biollante, second film of the '80s. This was the first film that. We no longer have Teruyushi Nakano doing the special effects. We have got Koichi Kawakita doing the special effects, and he's the guy who's going to take over pretty much for special effects for Toho in general, like all their movies. But he takes over the Godzilla reigns of special effects from here to 95 to the end of this era. So big cool thing about him because his special effects I think were awesome. Like they set a real particular tone, and we'll get into that. But I'm excited about this one because there's a lot of cool stuff in this film. So now everybody's watching multiple times. This was except for Mark. This was your first time watching it in all Japanese, right?
In all Japanese, yes. I had seen it before.
The Miramax HBO release.
I believe that's what that was.
All right, so quick rundown of the movie here. follows right after Godzilla 1985, 1984, whichever one you want to call it. Two different films, same film. Godzilla's still inside the volcano at Mount what's the name of the mountain? Totally drew a blank.
Oh, you're asking
I'm
me.
asking you, man. I'm looking right at you.
Oh man.
Anyways,
I'll tell you what.
gosh.
Yeah,
We
right
got
there,
it.
right there. You
We got
pronounce
to
it.
Mahara, Mount
There you
Mahara.
go.
I was about to say
There you go.
Minara. I'm like, that ain't right. Mount Mahara. So he's still inside the volcano. We do know that he is alive, and the government, the Japanese self-defense force, have actually 4 levels of alertion for when Godzilla's tracking his movements, or how much he's moving, or if he's actually escaped, or if he's attacking the city. And so we know that he's still alive inside the mountain. Very beginning of the movie, we see one of our main characters, Dr. Shinigami, and his daughter Erica at a company called Seradia Oil Company. They're working on ways to grow plant life pretty much in the deserts. And an attack happens, and his daughter Erica is killed. Dr. Shinigami can't handle it, so he actually takes cells from Erica and fuses them with a plant and creates this big, massive rose plant that's part rose, part Erica. And so goes back to Japan and meets up with our main character, Dr. Kirishima. Dr. Kirishima, in working on kind of what to do since Godzilla's still alive, what can we do? His fiance, girlfriend, we never really figured that out. She works for a big company who has G cells. During the cleanup and aftermath of Godzilla's first attack in the 85 film, or 84 film, they find G cells, and gets little particles of Godzilla's skin. And they've got them on ice, or kind of frozen, and want to make an anti-nuclear energy bacteria. And there's a big debate for Kirishima, because he realizes how this can be in the wrong hands, much like the Oxygen Destroyer from the first film, can be a very deadly weapon. In good hands, it can destroy nuclear matter, which would be great for the world, and of course stopping Godzilla. But in order to do so, they need the G cells, and he needs a crew of scientists, and he needs Dr. Shinigami to help him create this bacteria. Dr. Shinigami at first doesn't want to be part of it, and because he stopped working with the G cells and pretty much anything in general after his daughter's death. Well, there's an eruption in Mount Mahara. Somehow Godzilla doesn't escape. Don't understand how that works, but he doesn't escape. But the eruption causes an earthquake, and during the earthquake, the plant Erica, Rose, the case she's in, breaks, and she starts to die. So Dr. Shinigami decides to agree to help them make the anti-nuclear energy bacteria, but wants the G cells first, so he can study them, quote unquote, for 7 days. He takes the G cells so that he can then splice the Godzilla cells with Erica and her Rose cells to keep her alive. This creates our titular monster for the film, Biollante. Now, in the midst of all this going on, I'm trying to find a way to stop Godzilla in case he appears. There's a terrorist group from Seradia Oil Company trying to take the G cells and or the anti-nuclear energy bacteria, either way, for their own devious devices, their own reasons. And we've got this really cool assassin character, pretty much from the get-go, the beginning of the film, who steals the G cells from I don't know if they were American. They looked like American soldiers, but they sounded like British soldiers, which was very odd.
Yeah.
Steals some G cells from them.
I assumed American all the whole time. I assumed they were American.
I did too, because they're like green colored camo, and it's like, all right, American dudes.
Yeah,
then he opens his mouth.
It.
It's like, you're not American.
Yeah.
So they, the Seradia Oil Company has the G cells at the beginning of the film, and of course they get destroyed in the lab, and what remaining ones are left are and Dr. Akochi, I think is his name, in his company, Dr. Akochi, because it's Suka, his daughters, who's dating Kirishima, and so they end up stealing the G cells, and then it's up to Kirishima, and then one of our other main characters, Lieutenant Gondo, who has kind of been behind a desk, but he's a soldier, and he wants to get back in the mix of things, and he's ready for Godzilla to show up. I love that character because he's always like, when Godzilla finally shows up, he's like, amen. He's super excited about it.
Finally, I get to do something.
Exactly. So Gondo and Kirishima have to try and get the cells back. They actually go toe-to-toe with this assassin multiple times in the film, which is really, really cool. So throughout all this, of course, Biollante was made, and they try to break into Shinigami's house to get the cells or information on the cells, and Biollante attacks these people, kills two of them, or one of them, kills one of them, of the terrorist guys, almost kills the assassin, and then she goes and becomes this massive rose-type monster in the middle of the lake. And then Godzilla, of course, is still in the mountain. The terrorist organization want the G cells. If they don't get the G cells, or the anti-nuclear energy bacteria, I'm sorry, they're going to blow up Mount Mahara and release Godzilla. And so the whole country is at hostage. Well, Kirishima and Gondo take the anti-nuclear energy bacteria to meet the terrorist group, and their plot or their plan is foiled by the assassin, who is an awesome character. He ends up killing the agent from the Sarati Oil Company, and they don't get to stop the clock in time. The mountain blows up, and Godzilla appears. And what's probably one of the coolest appearances of Godzilla in a film, period. Like, it's super, super awesome. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in here in a little bit. Godzilla escapes and makes straight beeline for Japan. Enter in Super X2. The Japanese self-defense forces create a new Super X with something called the fire mirror. It's got this awesome thing at the front it's a big, massive mirror of artificial diamonds that's designed to be able to take Godzilla's ray and reflect it right back at him 10,000 times stronger. Great idea. Doesn't always work so much for it in the film. But they have a battle at sea, and he ends up taking out Super X temporarily, and he keeps making his way towards Osaka. And then we have another main character, our other last main character, because I know we've listed a few here, who is a main character that we're going to see through the rest of the Heisei, and is probably the most endearing and loved character for Godzilla fans of the entire series, Miki. She is this movie she's 17, and she is a girl that works with a program of the Japanese government dealing with ESP and kids who have these special telepathic abilities, and she's the strongest telepath that they have. So they use her to try and monitor Godzilla, track Biollante, and then there's this awesome confrontation where he's pretty much at Osaka. The entire Japanese fleet and army is in a whole nother part of the peninsula. They can't get there in time, so she decides she's going to try and stop him from going to Osaka. And what is a really cool scene of those two going toe-to-toe. But it introduces Megumi Odaka, the actress who plays Miki. Again, she's in all the rest of the films for the rest of the Heisei era. Godzilla makes it to Osaka. At this point, they get the anti-nuclear energy bacteria back, and they shoot him after battling Super X in Osaka again. They shoot him with the anti-nuclear energy bacteria, hoping that will soon take effect and kill Godzilla. In the process of them infecting him by shooting it out of rockets, Colonel Gondo, one of the main characters who you've just absolutely fall in love with, and like from the moment he shows up, you just love Gondo's character. He is a super cool guy. He gets killed. He shoots Godzilla straight in the mouth, and the Godzilla ain't having it. Totally crumples the building that he's on, and then we lose General Gondo, which sucked, but he was all about fighting. He wanted to die fighting Godzilla, I feel like. So they infect him with the anti-nuclear energy bacteria, but it's not taking effect. It's not working, and they can't figure out why until they realize his temperature has to come down. He's a nuclear reactor. His temperature runs super high, and the bacteria won't spread in those temperatures. It's got to lower it. It's opposite. It's super cold.
Yes.
They need to raise it.
They got to superheat. Yeah, they got to superheat it.
Superheat him. So they use this cool TC system, which are kind of like these little pads on the ground that they use to conduct heat lightning to raise his temperature, in an awesome, awesome fight between the Japanese self-defense force and Godzilla. And right before the final fight with Biollante, where Biollante returns in a super, super awesome form that's much bigger than Godzilla, very plant/crocodilian looking creature. But they raise his temperature, and the bacteria starts to take effect on Godzilla, and he starts to slow and lose momentum. And then Biollante shows up, and the final battle ensues, and Godzilla is technically stopped, not defeated, but stopped. And then Biollante dissipates into little orange dots and floats up into space so that she can come back and screw everybody over 4 movies down the road by creating a super villain. But she does her job, helps stop Godzilla, and Godzilla falls into the ocean, only to come up at the very end and be like, oh yeah, I'm not dead yet because I got more movies to make. But then there's an awesome fight scene. Dr. Shinigami ends up getting killed by the assassin, and Dr. Kirishima fights the assassin toe-to-toe before he's finally fried by the general who leads the Super X, who we see again in God vs. Destroy Us. Super cool character. A lot of cool stuff going on in this movie. I mean, there's a lot of different plot things going on. I mean, you've got the scientist aspect, you've got the psychic aspect now. Now you got the James Bond spy assassins going on, which is super cool. The movie came out, had a 700 million yen budget, did a little over 1 billion yen in Japan. So it wasn't a huge blockbuster, but it did very, very well. This movie was actually the story was a contest that Toho had released for fans or somebody who wanted to write a script for a Godzilla film. And a dentist, Shinichiro, still can't remember his last name, won the contest.
Yeah, I got it right here. It's
and you got it?
It's Shinichiro. Yeah, I had it right here. Here it is right there. Shinichiro Kobayashi.
Okay. Shinichiro Kobayashi.
Kobayashi.
And did a phenomenal job. They did, obviously, Kazuki Omori, who directed the film, also rewrote the script a bit. Super X2 wasn't added until after the rewrite. Originally, there was another monster that Shinichiro had written in, a rat hybrid, fish hybrid type creature that Godzilla actually fought. Both of the first 2 fights with Super X were actually supposed to be this other monster, but they got removed, replaced by Super X. There's a really cool scene. We talked about it before we started. The Miramax Blu-ray that came out a few years ago, or Lionsgate Blu-ray, has special features on it, an awesome special feature documentary, and it shows a lot of original storyboards and production scenes. And there's this awesome shot of Biollante in the lake, in her rose form, as we've all come to call it, as fans, where most of the lake is just covered and the ground around it's covered in these rose petals. That was one of Shinichiro's original ideas that ended up getting scrapped, which I thought would have been really cool. They kept it. So he made some alterations to the film, and then we got, still a great film from that as well. One big thing about this too was we know we lost Teruyushi Nakano from special effects and got Koichi Kawakita. Koichi Kawakita would become the staple in the special effects department for Toho from this point on, not just in the Godzilla films, but in their other special effects films, Gunhead, Yamato Takaru, all the special effects that Toho was doing, Koichi was top dog. And he had a great polished style to his special effects work that became a huge staple for Toho for the Mothra films too. The Mothra trilogy came out in '96. Koichi Kawakita did those. So he was a big name, and he was pretty much kind of I wouldn't say the next Eiji Tsuburaya, but I mean he definitely had a style that was stapled and loved by fans all over the place. But the movie did pretty well, and then of course Toho worked on getting it over here. They started a deal with Miramax. Actually ended up getting a lawsuit with them because Miramax was backing out of the deal. Big nasty mess. Miramax ended up settling outside of court and decided to release the movie. They were supposed to release it theatrically, but ended up releasing it on home video, HBO home video, which was owned by Miramax, releasing on VHS over here. And that actually would be the last Godzilla movie released in America until until Gino comes out, till Godzilla 98 comes out, right? I had to stop thinking of the name. Like, how do I word this? Because Mark's going to attack me with the Godzilla 98.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Didn't even enter my mind.
Well,
so the last one from 1989.
But Mark, I could tell he almost slipped. He almost said it. He was going to say it. He was just about to say it.
I was there. I was like, no, wait, I can't say 98 Godzilla.
Yeah.
We're called Gino from now on. But this would be the last home video or theatrical release of what didn't get theatrical, but this is the last Godzilla release until Gino comes out in 1998. All the rest of the Heiseis, we didn't get them until almost 10 years later.
That's one thing I'd like to mention is that thanks to Gino, we got all those TriStar movies. TriStar released all those movies, and I don't think we would have had a lot of them released if it wasn't for Gino being released, because it piqued interest for Godzilla, and it brought all these movies to America that might have not come to America, and that was a great time for Godzilla merchandise in general. Even though it was Gino that brought it to us, you went to Toys R Us and there was all kinds of merchandise. Trendsmaster released all those great Godzilla figures that are just to this day are just some of the most awesome figures I just love those Trendmasters. They're just done so well.
Oh man,
And
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, it's just, I just remember walking into Toys R Us, and this was RJ was just about born. I think he was born in July, and I think Godzilla you see, you got me saying it now. Gino released in that summer, so it was right around there, and so all those toys. I mean, it was my nephew Patrick that actually I would go to Toys R Us with him, and he'd pick up all these Godzilla toys. RJ has a few of them, but those are the ones that ended up at what's the name of the store? Big Lots.
Yeah.
Big Lots had a lot of them there when RJ was a little bit older.
Oh
So-
yeah. Oh, I had tons of
Gino,
them too,
Gino
man.
gets credit. Gino gets credit for bringing all those, because I don't know. I know you knew about the Heisei series. I knew about Biollante, and that's it. I didn't know about Ghidorah. I didn't know about Mothra, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, most people
and
didn't.
Destroya.
Over
Yeah,
here.
and I did not know about them until I'm sitting there, and they're doing QVC is doing this big special, pushing all the Geno merchandise. And matter of fact, in that same buy, that's where I got that Godzilla book, the Godzilla. I'm gonna say it wrong. Compendium.
Yes, Godzilla Compendium.
Compendium. I got that and those and I got I believe it was Ghidorah and Mothra that I got. I think I had to end up getting Space Godzilla and Destroyer later because they weren't released yet, but those two were. And I also picked up that book, which is autographed on top of that by J.D. Lee's.
Oh man, that's awesome.
I forget the other author.
And that's also like the most
and,
expensive Godzilla book out there. Like to get a copy of the compendium.
And I didn't know that. I'm like, man,
my
it's
gosh,
autographed and everything,
That's crazy.
And so I picked that. I mean, I was like, man, I was in heaven. It was like, man, all this Godzilla merchandise, and I'm getting, and these VHSs that and it's a refreshed this Godzilla design. I'm like, oh man, I was in hog heaven.
Man, I got tons of those Trendmasters when they first came out, and I mean, yeah, credit has to unfortunately go where it's due, and Gino is due credit for revitalizing Godzilla over here. We got the rest of the Heisei. We got Godzilla 2000 because of Gino's failure, so that is thanks to Gino.
Yeah.
The Godzilla Compendium, and you even had the Random House series of books then, like Godzilla 2000.
Yes, exactly.
Phenomenal books by Mark Saraceni. All came out around that time, and I had it all.
There you go.
There's
There's the second author to that book, Mark Saraceni.
Yes,
it's him and J.D. Lee's autograph. Yeah. That's the second guy.
Mark Saraceni's books were super good, super great books, and had them all. Yeah, I mean, like I was buying them when Ruben was buying them, and of course I lost a lot of the toys over the years, and I've now started going and finding and trying to hunt down those Trendmasters again. But man, they are not cheap. Like to get.
I know they're not cheap.
Oh man,
they are not cheap.
You got some other toys from that.
Oh, I knew you'd bring that up right then and there. I was like, man, the moment I talk about these Trendmaster figures, he's gonna bring up those freaking Gino ones. It's because
you know what? Even the Gino ones are not cheap anymore.
No, man, they're not. So I've been working. We'll get back to the Godzilla Biollante here in a second. But man, I've been working hard for months at this point. So I'll just go ahead and let out the bag because it probably ain't going to happen. Me and RJ me and Ruben had discussed this one-on-one in Messenger. I had found a Godzilla 98 figure on Macari selling app or whatever, and the plan was to purchase it, but we were going to ship it to your house under your name,
my
Mark.
house.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. So they would show up, and be like,
Really?
oh, it was like, oh, you coming up, you'd be like, hey, man, I got this at my house for me. Like, I guess I ordered it. Like, yeah, Mark, what's up?
Yeah.
You got a Godzilla 98 figure now.
I guess I ordered it. Yeah, I guess I did.
So I've been trying to pull that off for months now, but man, I cannot get find a decent figure for less than 50, 60 bucks.
Well, what about the ones you got upstairs?
Those again. Okay. Those again.
That came to your house, not mine.
Well, those again, because they came in a box with the real Godzilla 98 or Godzilla Trendmaster figures. That's the only reason they're there. Okay. I got a box 100%. Of like 8 Trendmaster Godzilla ones.
Yeah. I'm at work one day and I am working really hard.
Oh,
Sweat on my brow. And
he never gets sweat on his brow at work.
He
trust
pulls
me.
up in my parking lot and wants to talk to me. And lo and behold, what do I find in the passenger seat of his car?
Oh my god!
But a magazine. Who was that?
That was Gino.
Okay, there you go.
Totally
I
Gino.
rest my case. It's over.
It
It's
was
done.
Gino.
It's done.
It was $3, man.
Yeah.
$3.
I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten it slabbed yet. You know, I figured he's gonna
No,
get it
I'm not.
slabbed
I'm not
and graded
slabbing
and-
that at all. No way. It was the only reason it's even in a case is because it came in one.
You know,
that was
the
it.
bad part about that, all this is that you're trying to pull the wool over Ruben's eyes, like you're going to trick me when you know you would be right over at that house. Give it to me. It's mine. The joke's over. It's going to my house. now.
He's going to the shelf.
Yeah.
I was trying. I was like, I'm gonna find like a $10, $20 figure.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It was ridiculous.
Because you knew where it would go.
No, because I would not justify, even for a joke as great as that would have been, I am not dropping anything more than like $20 max on a Gino figure. Won't happen.
Well, now that we have established the fact that you will spend money on that. Gino
there
figure.
you go.
No. That was for a
because
laugh.
months ago, and you can help me out there, Ruben. He was a diehard, no way, no how, have nothing to do with any of that until I found the magazine in his car. But,
yeah, well, you know what? It's just Godzilla Biollante. That's where we're at. Okay, we're back on that one. So
I didn't bring it up.
We're
I
talking
was
about
sitting
Biollante.
quietly.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So
Man,
yes.
the episode for Zilla 98 is gonna be like 14 hours long.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
gosh, it
It's
will
gonna
be.
So we may have to video up on this end.
For the amount that we don't like it, it's brought up every single
Single
episode.
it is
Right? Oh man.
I told
Yeah,
something.
you're right.
I was
It
talking
is.
to Pete the other day, Pete Quint, and he messaged me. He's like, "Dude, I'm watching Halloween 3." I'm like, "Why? Why would you watch the marsupials? Like, that is the worst werewolf movie ever made." And I ended up telling him, I was like, "Dude, I would willingly watch Spider-Man 3 and Godzilla 98 before I watched Halloween
Wow.
3."
Wow.
And of course, I was like, not before
Wait,
Titanic.
which
though.
one? Halloween 3?
Howling 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
Halloween.
said Halloween 3. I was like, well, I know it's kind of weird, but a lot of people like it. I was
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, the
No,
Howling 3.
Halloween.
Halloween. It was Halloween
Halloween. We're
2
thinking of
was the bad
completely
one.
different
Season of the Witch. or
That's
something.
3.
That's 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The third
Yeah,
film's always
yeah,
the
Season of
worst.
Witch, I was like,
Yeah.
I know it wasn't about Michael
Yeah.
Myers, but I mean,
Oh
it's a
no,
cult
man!
classic.
Yeah.
Halloween 3, the marsupials is just—it's a bag of garbage like you ain't never experienced before. I mean,
I've never, you know what? I've
Oh,
never
man.
even seen it. That's how much it is. And I watch any. If it's a horror movie, I'll give it a shot.
I don't know,
Dude.
man,
And,
I've seen some stuff on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day. Remember?
Oh, yeah,
dude,
that's true.
it's full of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
good.
all those what are they called? The Asylum movies. I don't know if y'all have seen those. The Asylum movies where it's like they have like Transmorphers, Atlantic Rim.
oh, those are
yeah.
horrible
I
movies,
forgot
man.
about
The
those.
silent films, yes, so bad. But dude, I would
That's
even
what I mean. I was like,
Atlantic Rim is still better than Howling 3, man. Like.
Oh, really?
Werewolf nuns, man. That's just werewolf nuns says it all.
Oh, man.
It's so bad. Anyways, I don't even.
He's dogging you, Pete. He is dogging.
I'm not. No, Pete got to experience it, man. And he was. I think they're going to try and put it on Good Beer Bad Movie Night, which I
Well.
totally think they should. Like they would be so mad doing that one, because it would be really good. But anyways, so this is the last Godzilla movie that we get released until Gino's appearance, almost 10 years
Amazing.
later.
Amazing.
But actually did fairly well on home video release, and that's where we found it was a Blockbuster, where we first picked this film up. So I mean, a lot going on. I mean, it's a super not convoluted script for this movie, because you never actually get lost in the storyline and all the characters, but it does keep it going. I think actually, I can't remember if it was August Ragone or no, it was Ed Godzuzuki. Godzuzuki, however you pronounce his name, Godzilla critic. He had talked about, definitely not, Godzilla Biollante is not a classic, but he had said something along the lines of that it was like one of the freshest Godzilla stories ever.
Yeah, it is. The story is actually, the story you could tell is not written. It's not in your. It's very different than any other Godzilla movie. So you mentioned earlier it was from a contest, and I could see that. As soon as you said it's from I didn't know that it was a contest winner. But once you said it, I'm like, you know what? That it all makes sense now.
Yeah,
it all makes a lot of sense now because even of all the other movies, that one's different. than all the others in that series.
Oh yeah, because the
You
rest
know,
of
it's a whole
from here on
different
out.
story. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, from here on out, the
yeah.
Heisei picks back to that late 60s, early
Yeah.
70s, show us, what would you call it,
Yeah.
formula, and they just stick with it till the end.
Right.
I mean, they
Right.
really don't falter from that
Yeah.
formula from here on out. So let's jump into it, man. Let's talk about the things we liked and didn't like. We went first last time on this end, so it's our brothers from Texas. Y'all go first.
Archie,
Alright.
it's all yours.
Okay, I'll take it away. So yeah, so I don't have as much to say about this one as I did about 85. But that's okay.
I expect nothing less from a Revenge of the Sith fan. It's okay. I expect nothing less.
But yeah, I mean, there were a few things that I wrote down here. So I mean, first things first, I would say is it seems like every time like Godzilla, the movie seems to follow a pattern in the sense that every time it restarts, like with the Heisei series or something like that. I think it's comparable. I think this movie and 85 like together, like as a first movie and a sequel, are kind of comparable to 2014 and King of the Monsters, in the sense that the first one is really dark, really gritty, really serious, has a really like serious story, really promising characters, all these types of things, and of course I didn't like 85 as much, but as I did 14. But then you have the second movie, and it's a little, they kind of take the tone knob and draw it back a whole bunch, as in it's not as serious.
Yeah,
you could tell that the story is not as, there's not as much of an effort in it. Like it wasn't bad by any means, but this one is more fun, I guess is the word. And like that's why I compare it to 2014 and King of the Monsters. I love both, but 2019 is way more fun of a movie than 2014 is. At least I think. You know what I mean? To sit down and just watch. And so that's kind of what I felt about this one. Overall, it was just a fun movie. There was a lot of positives, and actually I don't really have much negatives except for one thing. So for positives, Godzilla's appearance in this one is awesome.
Oh,
I love
the
way he
first
looks in this one.
appearance?
He's
Or are you talking about like overall appearance?
no, just his overall appearance.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, just in general,
Yeah.
like the way he looks. Sorry, I should have made that more clear. But I mean, he's just awesome in this one. I know I had some qualms with 85. I thought he looked good, but there was a few shots where his eyes were a little kind of didn't do it for me. But this one, I mean, he's mean looking. Like I don't know. He just looks like a guy you do not want to mess with in this one. And I didn't get those vibes too much in 85, at least throughout the whole film. This one, in this film, it just was mean. He's like buff in this one too. Like he's just like, he looks like a guy you don't want to mess with. So I love that. Another thing I really enjoyed, which is my second main point, is the music. I enjoyed the music a lot.
I did too.
Last time last time I talked about how I didn't like how 85 didn't have the original theme, and I thought how just having the original theme kind of makes a Godzilla movie feel like a Godzilla movie. It's almost like I think I said last time, it's kind of like cheating, because you throw it into a Godzilla movie and automatically I'm kind of like, oh heck yeah, you know what I mean, no matter how bad the film is. But like I said, this one wasn't bad at all, but I was just glad to hear the original theme come back, so that was awesome. And yeah, it was just an enjoyable movie in general. For also another positive, but it'll also be my con, is Biollante. I loved Biollante as a monster, as a character. I even loved the whole backstory, with it being Erica with Merge with the Rose, all that type of stuff. But the reason I say it's my con as well is because I felt like she wasn't really in it much. For a movie that's called Godzilla vs. Biollante, I feel like it doesn't really revolve around Biollante that much.
True.
I don't know how to explain that really, but if you watch the film, you kind of get that. Like Biollante's in it for like a handful of minutes probably, and even like the final form that you kind of see like on the posters and all that stuff is in it for like a few minutes. I mean, but I love I just, the reason I put it as a con is I feel like it was kind of, Biollante is kind of a waste of potential in this film. I mean, I know there's only so much they can do, given their resources and the amount of time that they have for the movie and stuff. But I felt like they could have gone about it differently and made Biollante a little bit more of the centerpiece. I mean, I know it sounds weird to make Biollante a center, or make a character a centerpiece of a Godzilla movie, because Godzilla's kind of always the centerpiece. But yeah, I felt like they could have gone about it different, and I felt like just Biolante's story in general I liked, but I felt it was executed poorly. I just thought it was weird how it was this this innocent girl's soul, that was initially just crying out, and they were like, oh, like she's crying, she's saying this, like, and then at the last form she's just this hideous monster with acid
just
trying to
disgusting
trying
to
to kill Godzilla. I was like, wait, is this the same? Is this Erica? Like, what is she doing?
Well,
You know what I mean? So
I don't think
I don't know that I felt it was a little. It was a little bit of waste of potential, and it was a little inconsistent. And on top of that, I kind of thought it was comical how her dad, who created her, was just kind of like, man, this is kind of cool, like, I mean, of course, at the end, there's that scene where Biolante's in the water in her second form as the, oh, shoot, I just threw a pencil at the mic, sorry, but there's a scene where Biolante's like in the water, and I think that form is actually arguably almost as scary as the third and final scary form. She's just kind of standing there in the water, and it's kind of weird. But the dad's just looking, and he's like, yeah, I made that. He's not like distressed or anything. He's just like, yeah,
very blank.
Well, they don't seem to give.
That reporter asked that question, and he's like, well, I'm a scientist.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, so you're just okay that you did this? Like,
yeah.
Well, they don't seem to give Biollante any personality to have a human cells.
Yeah,
that's very true.
There's nothing there.
It seems like they kind of start giving her sort of personality, but then it just kind of like, it's almost like they were like, we don't have time to do this, so we're just gonna make it kind of scary and
we'll just flash a picture of her at the end.
Yeah, we'll just
yeah, exactly.
Crop her up
like,
there.
It just, if anything, I'd say it was a little confusing, like because I was like, okay, first and second form I see this, and then third form it's just absolutely horrifying. So but yeah, so that's really, and another that's kind of my pros and cons list. But another point that I kind of wanted to add, which I don't know if y'all are familiar. I know my dad and I are familiar with it. It's a PS2 game called War of the Monsters. Are you familiar with it, Sludge?
I know which game you're talking about, but I never played it because I spent all of my time on the PS2 playing God of War and Godzilla Unleashed.
Okay.
Like, that was it.
Oh man, dude, that game would be perfect for you. Do you have a PS4? Sorry, this is kind of off topic, but they re-released it for PS4. It is literally, it's literally monster movies in a game. Like, it's the whole.
It's got a 50s vibe.
The menu is like a drive-in theater, and it's all based on giant monsters. And
that's awesome.
A lot of them. There's a knockoff of Godzilla. There's a knockoff of Kong. But one reason I bring it up is because there's a boss that is eerily similar to Biollante. It's a boss fight and it's like kind of more similar. It's kind of like a merging of her first and third form, I would say. And I just thought I'd bring it up if you'd known about it, and maybe any listeners know anything about it, because I know for a fact when I was little and playing it, I called the boss Biollante. I was like, oh, I gotta fight Biollante. You know what I mean? Because it was so it's so similar. I mean, it's a plant mutated by nuclear energy, actually. So it's so I don't know if you ever had the time to play it, I highly recommend it.
It's actually, I think it's on the ground. There was like a nuclear accident.
It was a nuclear plant. It was a nuclear
and
plant.
That's what came out of it.
And it blows up, and then the plant comes. It's an awesome game. It's an awesome fight. Lots of references to kaiju movies and like 50 sci-fi movies in general. I'm
I'll check that out.
that you haven't played. I highly recommend it. I doubt that you'll regret it. But that was just kind of something I wanted to throw out there. So I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I didn't really have a lot of problems. It was just an enjoyable Godzilla movie. I thought it was great. So yeah, that's me.
Ruben, what about you, man?
Yep.
All right, it's my turn. You said a lot of stuff there. I don't know if I got anything left.
I know he covered a lot of ground. That was really good.
Yeah.
Better than his 85 spiel. Definitely.
I think I said more at 85, but you're right. Probably more that you agreed with now.
Yeah. Well, I like the movie, though I will say of all the Heisei series, this one is the one that I watched the least, and that's not a negative thing.
Really?
It's just
Hold on.
Actually,
I gotta.
We
got time out on that one right there. You brought that up. You opened a bag of worms. You picked this less. You picked Space Godzilla more than this.
I like Space Godzilla.
Yeah. I do.
Wow. Okay. This go. I don't even. We're not even gonna go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yo, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, Ruben, Biollante. Take it away.
Well, that's what. Well, I'm gonna just throw in. We were talking about it before, and if there, I didn't mention it in mine, but I feel like this one's the most forgettable, and I don't mean that necessarily a bad way. I remember a lot of the Heisei films except for this one. Like I feel like this one it's just kind of there for me, but it's enjoyable. So I don't know, continue.
Yeah. So anyway, so again, that's not necessary. It's just like if I'm gonna watch a Heisei film, this one is not there. But that being said, now that I rewatched it, I'm like, you know what? I underestimated this movie when I first watched it. After rewatching it already twice, I'm like, I didn't give this movie enough credit. This is a very good movie with a very good storyline, and it's very original. Biollante is, man, the Biollante design is one of the best of all the. You have your classic Ghidorah and your classic Rodan. I would say it's better than Space Godzilla. I like it
design,
better than Space Godzilla.
Definitely.
Design wise, better than Space Godzilla. If you're talking about which is the weakest designed monster, I'll give you that. It's Space Godzilla. And you're right about Space Godzilla. I will say this: it is hard. That one is not as easy to watch for me as some of the others, but this one, for some reason. But after rewatching it, I'm like, you know what? I haven't given this thing enough credit. At first, I was turned off. The first time I saw it, I was turned off by all that spy and all that. I'm like, I want to see Godzilla. It kind of turned me off. But now after we're watching it in a different light, I'm like, man, you know what? This is pretty cool because you see all this struggling going on while Godzilla is, threatening Japan. Right. And yet you have all this going on in the backdrop of it. So I like that. I like the story. I like the music. I thought some of it was kind of. I know it was made in late '80s, but it was very disco-y to me. I don't know.
It was very
why it seemed that way. Like they did, like you could hear the Godzilla theme, and they did it with guitar. I'm like, it's kind of disco-y, though it had some electric guitar in it. It looked like they were going for something that just didn't hit right with me. But of course, we have the classic theme there to save the day every time. I don't have very many negatives about this because I thought the pace was good. I thought the suit was awesome, and my favorite scene is when they blow the volcano and Godzilla comes shooting out of that volcano. Well, he doesn't come.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Yeah, that is just. Oh my. Whoa! There. That's up there with the Mothra appearance.
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot. I liked the way he appeared, and the battles were done very well. Considering that, I remember when I first read about and first saw this movie, I said, how's a plant gonna fight Godzilla? Come on.
Right.
And of course, in the first battle, there is no contest. Godzilla just goes right through her. No problem. He has a little bit of problems with her tentacles, but other than that, no. But in this third and final stage, it's an awesome battle. It's a good fight. It's well choreographed, and there's nothing really bad about this movie, other than I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. It's just it's average or a little bit above average. I don't want to say average because I think it sounds like I'm being very down on it. Yeah. So I want to say it's just a little bit above average because I'm comparing it to the rest of the series. So
right, taking into account the show,
I'm comparing
as well.
it to the rest of the series,
absolutely.
And to be fair, I'm like, okay, I'm comparing it to the rest of the series, and where does this land for me on that? And it this series, I like this series from Return of Godzilla all the way through. I like it a lot. It's still, my series wise, it's my favorite. You had to make me pick a series. I like it. Millennium was hit and miss. You had some good movies.
Oh, very much.
Very average movies. Yeah, and this one was not. And even Space Godzilla, I don't think was. I would put it on par with this one, but that's the only negative thing I would say, that if you're going to watch this series, the Heisei series, it doesn't rank high with me as far as that goes. But that's not saying anything really bad about this movie. I think it's a fun movie. I think you'll sit and you'll enjoy it. There's even some comical parts in there. You know, I know you guys are probably gonna say, "Really, Ruben? You think that's funny?" But I laughed when that terrorist snipes that guy in that bread truck. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever because he's just driving along and all of a sudden he gets shot and the truck tips over and, and he's just there and then he's just hanging there dead, you know. And I'm like, well, I thought that was funny, or you know. So I know it shouldn't be. It sounds kind of morbid, but you know, it's a Godzilla film and it's not really gory or anything.
No.
It's kind of funny, you know, because he's kind of like, oh, it's him again, and then he just gets in his truck and drives off, you know, and then he gets sniped. He gets sniped right there. Yep. So,
my granddaughter
that's
kept...
the only negative. That's the only kind of negative thing is I thought that the spine part was kind of corny, but not too bad.
That's my granddaughter was trying to screaming for him to get up, and I'm like, he can't. He's been shot. I'm sorry, he can't. He can't. She's like, what? He's shot.
He's way past getting up. Which, you know, that's a good sign that they did it enough where she didn't realize what really happened.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's always a good sign because, you know, nowadays it's kind of hard to let your kids watch a movie because you never know. And, you know, with Godzilla, they usually do a very good job of making it friendly enough that a kid won't get traumatized.
Very true.
Other than being scared of Biollante. I mean, Biollante is pretty...
Yeah.
The final form is pretty scary.
Terrifying. Oh, very.
Yeah, it's very... it's very
definitely.
Scary. I thought, I'm like, man, you know, that's scary, you know, as compared to, I'll bring it up again, Space Godzilla. That didn't... Yeah. That wasn't scary. Yeah, it was a Godzilla. It was a blue Godzilla with some horns sticking out the back. You know,
it was
basically not very original.
I always thought they were like crystals or something. You know, like quartz. The way they were sticking out the back.
Oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to be, like space crystals or something.
Yeah, I would compare Biollante's final form almost to like a Destroyer. I mean, I know Destroyer is much more deadly and stuff, but
terrifying looking.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because of Biollante's sheer size. I mean, she's a big one at the end. You know what I mean? Like she's quite large.
She's quite large,
especially in if you've ever played the games too. In the Godzilla, what's the latest one? Godzilla Unleashed, I think. When she's a character you can play as.
Yeah. The last that one. Oh, I mean, she fits Godzilla's like entire head and most of his neck in her mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Massive.
Yeah.
And a mouth just full of teeth.
The rows of
teeth.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna say the rows of teeth. I pointed it out when we watched it. I was like, God, it's just literally the whole roof of the mouth and the whole everything is teeth. Terrifying.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I gotta say, guys. I'm gonna hand it off to you guys now.
I just wonder, the guy who won the contest was a dentist, correct?
Yes.
Have you noticed some of the shots? I mean, at one point, Godzilla opens his mouth, and you like see his molars way back in the back. And I thought, man, the shots of the mouth.
True.
Like, and I even thought about it watching it. I thought this is because he had some teeth in there that they showed it this time, all the way back to the back of his throat. And I thought, well, I don't know.
Well, this was the first film too, teeth wise. Because I mean, Biolante's got tons of them.
Yeah.
In both forms, but definitely the last one. But this was also the beginning of the dual rows of teeth for Godzilla.
Yes, yeah, which was kind of crazy.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. I just thought it just came out and he was a dentist. Maybe it's
there's some correlation
play on that
Could
one.
Be.
So anyway,
you're up, Mark.
I was, of course, 85 was, irregardless of what RJ thinks,
right?
Was special for us because that was me turning you on
right.
to Godzilla, and so 85 has always been special and good, and I've always liked it, enjoyed it, thought it was a great movie. And then for this to follow up behind it was kind of a letdown, even though it's going right from 85 into it as far as the storyline goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought special effects I thought were great. I enjoyed the movie. You'll see in my stomps. I mean, I thought it was good, good to watch, entertaining. I thought they kind of overdid it with the spies, layer upon layer, but I thought overall it was a good movie, just not as good as 85. I was kind of let down a little bit from that. Biollante, I think, is for a new monster is a great new monster. Not very mobile, but a good new monster. And so it was kind of like Godzilla had to continuously go to him or go to her to do some of these fightings, except for the vines and that stuff.
Right.
But overall, I could sit down. I'd watch it again and again. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. When it comes to Godzilla movies, Godzilla's the suit, everything looked great. I thought it was very, very a step up, polished, looking good, heading in the right direction towards the 2014 Godzilla. I think that's my opinion, and I think overall, I wasn't the theme. And I'd showed you where the original writer of the theme thought it was terrible.
The music theme.
The
Talking about
music
Akira
theme.
Fukube.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you popped it up on your phone a second ago.
And he thought it was terrible. He didn't like the modernization of his theme. But I noticed it in the very beginning was definitely a real 80s modernized.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I thought, well, I hear it in there, but I've got to really listen to pull it out. And so, but I think overall the acting was pretty good. A lot of the characters I got into, and obviously Miki, her starting the introduction to her, I think, really adds to the Godzilla series as it
absolutely.
as it goes along. So
pivotal.
Short and sweet. I'll give it a thumbs up. I liked it. Didn't have a whole lot of negatives to it. I just thought it was mediocre to be the negative part of it. So
right. So this one for me, this is the middle ground film for the Heisei series. I mean, you've got what we got here. 1, 2, 3. I got to count over here. I'm trying to remember how many's in the Heisei total. 7 films in the Heisei films. There are 3 better and 3 worse than this film, in my opinion. So it's really for the Heisei. I love the film. It's great, but it's the middle ground film for me for this series. But there's a lot I like about it. I like that it was a direct sequel. I liked that it followed suit, which was really, really cool. I love the characters. Kirishima, the main doctor character, probably my favorite character because he covers like all kinds of bases. He's super smart. He's the scientist. He's the one that brings up almost the Sarazawa type notion from the original films. Like, look, this is an amazing, invention, but it can also destroy mankind. He brings back that questionality of should we be creating this thing? He even states in the film, look, we've already created Godzilla. Why do we want to create something else that's going to make an even bigger monster?
Right. Right.
So he's that moral compass of the movie, but then he's also not afraid to get his hands dirty, which you don't ever see out of a scientist, which I think is awesome. Like him and Gondor are just knee deep in getting this, dealing with the terrorists, and there at the end after the assassin kills Shinigami. He's fighting.
Right.
In the mud.
Right.
They're ramming the vehicles against together. It's awesome. I loved it. He's probably one of my, when it comes to the Heisei series, aside from Miki, because Miki's just we all can agree just probably the most loved character for the Godzilla films. Kirishima is probably my favorite character in the Heisei series. Period. Even though I love 85 far more than I do Biollante. This character I thought was just great. He just was all across the board super awesome. Shinigami was a cool scientist. I'm kind of disappointed in him a little bit because I'm like, dude, let's just go full on mad scientist. You really missed it. I think of Dr. Yafune from Terra Megagodzilla because I can't not. His daughter died in Terra Megagodzilla, so he, makes her cyborg. Okay, we're going down that road again. I get it. I'm cool with it. We can do it. It was cool then. Not quite as cool this time. Like he should have just been, mess your hair up a little bit and get real crazy. That's what I was wanting to see out of him, and it just wasn't really there. Right. And too many times, RJ kind of said it too. I think it was RJ said it was. He just kind of stood there blankly, like staring, like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
It's like, there was really not a whole lot to the character. A pivotal character for the movie, I think, because he creates Biollante, but kind of not fully brought to a fruition that could have been great. So there's a lot I liked about it. I love the Godzilla suit. It's not my favorite of the Heisei, but like you said, it was a major step in the right direction. I still like 85 far better, but going more in that reptilian design that they start going into for the rest of the Heisei, this one looked great. I feel like they
tail's long as this one.
Yeah, his tail is long as this one. Yeah.
What's that? I missed it. I missed that. What'd you say?
Oh, sorry. No, I just said that his tail's super long in this one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Tail is massively long. I feel like they nailed the spines. Like the spines were great on an
Yeah.
85 suit.
Oh yeah.
They were positioned kind of weird. They were really kind of like, I feel like they nailed the spines on this one.
Right.
Spines looked really, really, really good. So I
I
mean,
think this is one of the best ones. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys, I just read this recently. That was one of the suits that got stolen. They had two of these suits, and one of them was stolen.
yep.
Oh, wow.
And they, it got a lot of publicity, so somebody just dumped it in the bamboo field somewhere, and some old lady found it.
They had like an award or
this
a
was-
reward to find it, I think, for this one.
Yeah, it got really like from what I read from the story. I guess there was a lot of heat, so they got rid of it.
Like, oh, we can get rid of it. Why didn't they do that for the 85 suit when it got stolen? Like, why didn't they like, oh, we need a reward? But no, they didn't do that.
No, they didn't do that. What,
I don't know. I think that says something.
I think that says something.
I knew where that one was going. As soon as I said, I'm like, crap. I opened that door.
Yeah, we both looked at each other. And
It's like, well,
we both
derpy
looked at it and
eyes.
said
You
that.
probably not going to
It
give
is
a reward,
so-
a reward for. But so I mean, the suit was great. The special effects, Koichi Kawakita stepping in, he definitely has a polish about his special effects that was different than Teruyuki Nakano. I like overall Teruyuki Nakano better because his special effects is much like Aiji's. It's grittier looking, and I like that. But Koichi Kawakita coming in with a much more polished, colorful special effects.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, this is a very colorful movie too.
Yeah.
yeah.
It reminded me of, watching it always reminds me of like it's not nearly as colorful, like Flash Gordon, the 1980 Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
With the colors and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and you know what? A lot of that is reflected in even the next couple of films.
It is.
The colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it is.
that's why
And I think it's very Flash Gordon-y to me. Although Flash Gordon was one of the most colorful movies you'll ever see, but
Yeah,
it reminded me of that.
I would call it, if Aiji and Teruyuki Nakano were the rock and metal special effects artists, this is the pop special effects artist. You know what I mean? Like very
Yeah,
very
there you
polished
go.
and poppy,
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because it serves the series very well. So I mean, what he does and shapes
Yeah.
for the series does extremely well, especially considering the budget
Yeah,
these movies
because
got.
it all starts. I mean, it really started with Return. I understand that, but I think that this gave the whole series. This movie gave the series direction. Okay, this is where we're going with this,
It did.
and it took it from there. Because I think Return was made, and they they gave it an out just in case it wasn't successful in 85 or 84, I should say.
Mhm.
And then they said, no, you know what? People love this movie. Let's make more. And then when they made Biollante, they said, okay, what are we going to do with this? And then they took it in this direction. So, Return started it all, but Biollante, I think, gave it its direction. For
Yeah,
the rest of the
I agree.
series.
Definitely give it. So I mean, there's a lot I liked about it. I loved a lot of the characters. I loved Miki. I loved Kirishima. And Kirishima is probably my favorite human character, aside from Miki, in the entire Heisei series. They all did a really good job. It didn't get too muddied. I love the special effects. Godzilla's appearance in this is the second greatest appearance. As far as his first appearance, like arrival on the film itself, the second best in the entire
I
Heisei,
agree.
like in my opinion. Like when he comes out of that volcano with that new suit and look, and yeah, RJ nailed it. He's intimidating.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I'm
Yeah.
like, so cool. And have the even though, yeah, it was very 80s stylized, to have Akira Ifukube's theme back at that moment, I was like, dude, it's Godzilla. Like, boom, here we go,
Yeah.
It's very fun. I loved a lot about this movie. I did have a lot of beef with this movie as well, though, but it balanced out because again, this is the middle ground for Heisei for me. But a lot of my beef, honestly, was and Gondo's character. I love Gondo's character. Like I hate that he died, but he was so awesome. Like he was really super cool. He was like almost like the Riggs. You know what I mean? From Lethal Weapon. You know what I mean? If you had Riggs and Murtaugh, you got
the loose
Kirishima and
cannon,
Gondo.
the loose cannon of Toho.
Yeah, like he was so cool, and I wish they would have kept that character going because he would have been great in future films. But so I want to say
I kind of got the feeling though. I don't know, throughout the movie, I always had that in the back of my mind, like he's not gonna make it, type of deal. I remember, and it could be because I knew he was not gonna make it, but I always felt that watching it I felt like he was going to be the sacrificial lamb in this.
Right.
He was going to
right.
be the hero, I should say. A hero that he was going to sacrifice himself, to defeat Godzilla.
Yeah.
And he was going to do it no matter what. When they lined themselves up in that building, I said, "Uh-oh, here we go."
This
type of
this
deal.
is it
So,
for him. So, but I mean, yeah, definitely a sacrificial lamb. But man, such a cool character. But as far as
Yes.
my beefs with this movie, really, one, the suit is kind of a beef. The suit looked awesome, but I did not like the head. It felt like they knew what they wanted to go for, but they did not get there with the head sculpt on this one. I mean, it was almost like a little too abominable snowman-ish. Your Bigfoot, kind of coned
Right.
at the top. So that drove me nuts. There's several scenes, especially when him and Miki go toe to toe there before as he's going to Osaka. I can't. Most of the time, I have to I really want to focus on that scene because that scene is so awesome. But I can't stop looking at the point on his head. I'm like, that is a abominable snowman head. So I mean that I have a little bit of beef with that, but pretty much all my beef for the movie is editing. I mean, across the board, the soundtrack or the musical editing and the sound effect editing is atrocious. I mean, I don't know how many times they'll be playing a theme, and I'm like, and
Yeah.
it should fade into another scene, and they just cut the audio. They're just like, oh, we don't need this, turn it off.
They just- I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's so.
And that might be what subliminally got me. Maybe I kept thinking, man, why does this feel so choppy to me? And it's really not. Maybe it was the music.
Oh man,
That'll do it for you every
so
time.
yeah, so much of that's choppy, and so many things there. I feel like the scene where they go to give the anti-nuclear energy bacteria to the terrorists in the truck, and then the assassin shoots him. I felt like that made no sense. But
yeah, it did. That's what made it laugh.
yeah, why is he getting this box truck? And then then he's like, oh, let's just go throw the switch, and then they actually finally get in the truck to try and throw the switch. There's 500 switches. Why does this terrorist in the box truck have 500 switches? And so I mean that's just made no sense. But there was a lot of things too where I kind of felt like I was missing Jun Fukuda in the action sequences with the human characters because they weren't edited very well.
Yeah, the action character. Yeah, the human action was not. That was subpar. I agree with that.
Yeah,
I didn't think about it until you said it, but you're right.
I love Kirishima's fight with the assassin.
It was a very. It had a very staged, predictable kind of feel to it.
It did, and there's times where I almost felt like especially with that last fight scene with the assassin, where almost like Kevin Smith was directing. Like he didn't know when to say cut and switch to another camera. It's like, oh, I held that scene or that angle too long. It's like, no, I mean the editing just was not good in this film, in my opinion, and that was my only beef with it. It's not horrible.
Those are all valid negatives that I didn't even think about until you mentioned them, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so I mean that's really my only beef. I mean the abominable snowman had Godzilla, and then the editing of the film. I was okay with.
I'm looking at a picture of him right here, and I just don't see the abominable snowman.
I mean, I can see.
I see his little head compared to his big body.
I think if anything, he looks like a mean dog.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I get that, and that's what I thought when watching it. Like when they show him from the front, and he has those two little teeth on the front. You know what I mean? Like he looks like a mean dog. You know what I mean?
He does. I mean, it's not a bad suit. I mean, there's definitely worse suits. It's my least favorite of the Heisei, but it's definitely far superior to some of the suits we've gotten, back in the day.
Right.
But because it's going in the right direction. But I just had that little bit. I mean, just the head really just bothered me, especially the little more cone-shaped part of his head. And then the editing. I mean, other than that, I mean, the film was great. It is very energetic. It's very fun. It's well paced. It keeps you going. The only other complaint, again, this is editing, I guess technically, is when you watch the Japanese version of the film, there's tons of English dialogue, especially with the assassin and the terrorists. They all speak in English, and actually, even Dr. Shinigami's whole first dialogue in the film is in English with the Serati guy. Well, when they dubbed it on the international dub that was brought over here to America, they redubbed the audio. So they dubbed over the English audio with more bad English audio. That drove me nuts. I'm like, I don't understand why they did that because it just made it worse. But overall, I mean, a good movie. I mean, it was still super fun. I mean, we're going to get into this, the Heisei's coming up soon, and I mean, even my least favorite of the Heisei series, because I'll kind of give a nod to Ruben on this because he loves the series. Even the worst of the Heisei, in my opinion, is still far superior to a few of the Showa. I mean, they did an extremely good job with the '90s series, and then the whole movie I liked about this whole series as we get into these films is from here on out, and Ruben said it right too. This set the direction. They all have a tone. They all follow, and this is the first time too that we've had this stretch. I mean, 7 films, and they're all consecutive sequels.
They're all connected,
right?
Yeah.
And you really haven't had that closely or well done ever. It's this long. You've got the sequels that follow suit. I mean,
Right.
Godzilla Raids Again was kind of thrown out, but then Mothra, Ghidorah, Monster Zero, and then it kind of just goes loose from there. But this, great job.
They don't keep the direction. They don't keep the direction. Their attention span ends there, and then goes off somewhere else. Not that the films are bad, but it's not
right.
They're not as connected as these.
Yeah,
they're not nearly as connected as these.
Yeah, because I mean, this is the second one in, and we're going to see remnants of this movie, as well as Godzilla versus Mothra in '92 are going to pop back up in '94 with Godzilla Space Godzilla. You know what I mean? So
well, it's just like you look at Terra Mecha Godzilla compared to Godzilla versus King Kong. Let's just start there. Let's just take Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again out, and it's a totally different Godzilla.
Yeah,
it's just the story is totally different. It's the direction is not even close.
Yeah,
and even if you want to take Kong out, and you want to go to Mothra, it's still there's still a big difference there.
Huge difference. Yeah, I mean, and this one, like the next Godzilla film we got, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, the '91 film, ties right into the '93 film Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I mean, he's made from the same technology. You know what I mean? So they did such a good job congruently with the series that they definitely hats off. I mean, I could see Ruben why. Your favorite series is this one. Because it is great. So I mean, no other complaints about Biollante. I mean, it's my middle. It is perfectly my middle film for the Heisei. So I mean, I like this movie a lot. We've all talked about all the great things that's in this movie that makes it well beyond enjoyable. And very few things. I mean, not too many things that really make it bad. And honestly, mine are probably what most people wouldn't even look at or consider. You know what I mean? To make a bad film, mine are just so. With the actual editing of the movie is my biggest beef. Other than that, I mean, great movie. Anything else you guys have? Want to add?
I'm good.
No, I do have one more thing to add before we start wrapping up. This movie has sentimental value for me, like many of them do.
Yes. You must hear the story.
You guys heard my King Kong Live story. You guys, you've heard other stories. This one here. When my wife Cindy was pregnant, back in those days, we went in and you checked into the hospital we went the night before to check in because they're going to induce labor because this guy had a big head. So they're going to induce labor because he was she had complications. So they said, you know what, we're going to induce labor. So anyway, back then, it was a suite, and it might still be. It was like, it was to make the mom feel comfortable, and they had a TV in there with a VCR and a radio and all this stuff to make. Well, they said bring movies that you want to watch, and the movie I brought we checked out on a Sunday night. The movie I brought so we could watch was Godzilla versus Biollante. So
that's awesome.
When RJ was getting ready to be born. Yeah. While she was still in the belly, he got to at least hear.
I was gonna say, so I probably heard some of this movie.
You probably heard some of this movie.
That should be RJ's favorite.
You could hear everything, and it was VHS. It was my VHS copy of Biollante. It's all they had back then, And that's July 1998. There I am.
I wish I could say I remembered it as well.
Yeah, July 20th. There I am watching.
July 21st.
No. 20th.
Oh yeah, you forget my birthday. Actually,
it was July 19th. But they want to be born to the next freaking.
Yeah.
my poor wife, she's had to see Biollante, which is my movie, not really hers. They induced labor on Monday morning, and she doesn't have him till the following day, 2:00 in the morning or something.
Wow.
Because he just wouldn't come out. He just wouldn't come out. This guy was being stubborn.
I was cozy in there.
Yeah, he was cozy in there.
Biollante terrified him, man. He was like,
whenever I think of Godzilla versus Biollante, I remember that night. Checking into the hospital and going through the thing, and then my wife, of course, was nervous. She was about to go through an ordeal, a beautiful ordeal, but an ordeal.
She's like, this is
gonna
going to be terrible. Ruben's like, Godzilla. It's time. It was time.
Yeah. And I always complained to her, because watching Biollante, and I was complaining that the chair was uncomfortable.
That worked.
Because it was one of those chairs that turned into a bed, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep. And she goes, you were complaining about that, and I was about to go into labor.
Yeah. So my dad's first words to me were, "How many stomps did you give it?"
Exactly.
Yes. That's awesome. That's great.
That's good,
dude. Yeah. It's like for Ruben, those big life changing moments. There's always a monster movie involved. Always. Honeymoon.
That's right.
King Kong Lives. Or
Lives.
RJ's birth. Right. Godzilla's Biollante. So, dude, I can just see it now. It just popped in my head. So, like, Ruben and RJ, you guys. I'm sure you're okay with me saying this. You guys are Catholic.
And even I'll add, I don't remember what movie it was, but when I was first having girl problems in the 8th grade,
yes,
I came over and asked my dad a question, and obviously, I didn't know if I liked this girl, whatever, and I happened to interrupt him watching a Godzilla movie.
It's like
it was, and to this day, I tell him, I said, I remember that day. You ruined my whole Godzilla movie experience.
So even my coming of age, it was when he was watching. Dude,
that's what it is. It's got everything.
Yeah, it was.
That's awesome.
See, he didn't know what to do. I remember we just talked about it. It was two girls, and he didn't know which one he wanted to ask to the dance.
Yep.
And he came out there while I was watching Godzilla and wanted to talk about it.
It's like, that's when he goes, who would Godzilla pick, son? That's the important question. Dude, I can see it. I can see it, because when you were talking about it, I was just laughing, thinking about it. I'm like, man, every major moment for Ruben is there's a monster movie, so it just popped in my head, man. I could totally see it because Ruben and RJ, you guys are Catholic. I'm sure you're okay with me saying that because we're Christian. We're all Christians. We just got their little whatever.
Yeah.
So I just imagined in my head like the Pope all of a sudden shows up at Ruben's house. And he's got two Godzilla films in hand going, which one do you want to watch, Ruben? Which one?
Amazing, you're right.
Because that's what it is.
You know what? If he shows up with Gino, I might have to have a discussion with him.
He's like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on.
Wait a minute now.
That's good.
Yeah, so now I'm just gonna have to pick out my Godzilla movie for RJ's wedding.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Where's Dad at? The wedding starts in 30 minutes. I got 5 minutes left of Godzilla film.
It's almost over. Hang on.
I'll pick one out for his honeymoon.
Yeah,
I'll pick one out for his honeymoon.
Dude, don't say anything to him. Don't say anything to him. Just like, slip it in his bag.
Oh, yeah.
And then when he gets there in his honeymoon, dude.
That's a good idea. You're going to slip it in his bag.
I got the perfect movie for us.
There you go, son.
King Kong. He's going to open his bag, and his wife's like, why is there King Kong Lives in your bag?
Yeah,
What's going on?
What is this?
Yeah.
I mean, and for what it's worth, I did. My girlfriend and I watched. She hadn't seen. I wasn't gonna sit there and make her watch from the beginning. So we watched 2014 together. She liked it a lot. She wants to watch King of the Monsters really bad. So
there we go. There we go.
Awesome.
Yes.
Keep her right there. Still trying to figure out how to get my wife to watch something. Just to, when she finally watched one with me, and she's like, "Okay, I'll sit down and watch these with you." But it was the Smog Monster. What an odd one to come in on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, these movies are great. Let's watch the Smog Monster. She was like, let's define your terms of great here. Right on. So, all right. So stomp wise, anybody make anything else on this one?
Nope, we're good.
All right. Stomps. This one was the very first 33 episodes in on this show. And this is the very first unanimous stomp down rating we have had. All four of us across the board, 3.5 stomps on this one. Yes. Which was pretty cool. So I'd almost give that a 4 just because it was the first unanimous one. Like that's,
definitely.
No.
We'll just stay at 3.5.
3 and 3.5. Perfect middle ground there.
There we go.
So,
It's funny. A lot of these movies, we give it our stomp rating at the beginning, and by the end of the movie, sometimes I want to change my stomp rating.
Yeah.
Sometimes to less, and sometimes to more.
Yeah.
Most of the time to
Yeah,
more.
depending on what it is. So I thought we'd come up with this one. I mean, yeah, 3.5 stomps. It's good. It's a great movie. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It is very fun, very energetic all the way through. Godzilla looks great, minus the abominable snowman head, which is, if you heard Ruben, it's not I noticed it, but I'm probably the only person. But really, really good. Sets the tone for the rest of the series. Special effects really takes it up a notch with some of the things that they do. So, I did have one other complaint, and I totally forgot about it. This was the beginning of what I call the Ray battles, and it drives me up a wall. It's the only thing I don't like. That like my only beef with the Heisei series compared to the Showa is like the amount of times they become laser battles from here on out. You know what I mean? Like the amount of actual physical fighting between the monsters starts to really decrease, and you're seeing more of just shooting each other with rays.
Well, but I kind of like that a little bit because if I'm in a fight and I've got this thing, I'm going to use it. And so many times we've talked about in the past how Godzilla's getting his hind end kicked and he doesn't use it. He doesn't use the ray. He doesn't use it. And I thought this one. He used it enough. He used it plenty.
To be fair, to add to what Mark is saying, think about the monsters that appear in the Heisei series. All of them are not really combat based. They're Mecha Godzilla. Of course, he's going to use lasers. King Ghidorah got the lightning. He doesn't even really have arms.
True.
Space Godzilla. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I mean, okay.
You just need to take that back.
I'm not taking it back.
You know what I mean? So like, I think you have to take. It's not really the fault of the movies or the.
Well, no,
it's just like they have to work with.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
With the monsters.
Now you tell me. You're one of those guys that's like, I'm a combat soldier. I got my M16 here. I'm going to put it on my back because I'm going to fight for a while. That you? No, you're going to take that M16. You're going to shoot somebody.
But when we go to see a monster movie, what do we want to see? We want to see the monster action, the fights. You know what I mean? But RJ brought up too that the Rodan fight coming up in a few movies in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. That was probably the most physical fight. You know what I mean? Like hand to face, wings, whatever. You know what I mean? Like it was the most actual physical fight with the least amount of lasers, and it was awesome. Man, it was so cool.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I like the fighting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to complain because I'm still seeing Godzilla too much because I'm still seeing
got
Godzilla.
The arsenal. Use it. That's what
I'm still going to see Godzilla blow his radioactive breath at something, but it's just like to me, it got a little overboard with that stuff in this one. So. But anyways,
that's true. I mean, and the show had a ton of that. I mean, there's people. I mean, Godzilla's throwing people across fields. You know what I mean. So I guess they were experimenting. They said, "Oh, we can do this now. We have the technology to make this look cool." So but
and they do a great job in some of those. I mean, when we get to the movie where Godzilla's first orange spiral ray appears, it is pretty freaking epic. It's awesome. So
yeah.
All right. Well, man.
So in that aspect, I mean, if we go to 98,
there was nothing for him to even fight. Okay, no. I knew exactly where you were going with that. He didn't use his breath at all. Because it's not Godzilla. It is Gino.
That must have been your favorite.
That was my least favorite. Oh my gosh! When he smacks that helicopter, I was just waiting for him to ask for a Band-Aid.
I bet you jumped out of the chair.
When he attacked the helicopter?
Yeah, I bet you did.
I did not. No. I was still mad. I was still trying to figure out how he was fitting in between the buildings at that point in the film. I'm like, what? How is this? Makes no sense because that is the. We'll get there. We will get there. In that movie, that is the most disproportionate Godzilla I've ever seen.
I know we will.
He's like leaping across the dude.
Yeah, dude. The dude's like five different sizes.
Well, they had to do that so they could do that little special effect where they show the tail whip and go by the window slow, then real fast. Yeah. That does that.
His size
5
changes.
different sizes throughout the film, but that reminds me of another film that we just watched.
Oh my gosh! He brought that up in '85. How dare you put those two in the same ballpark?
That's funny.
Okay. I had to. You said 5 different sizes throughout the film, and I was like, wait a minute, that's exactly what I said.
That's true. Oh man.
Maybe not 5. It was like 2 different sizes.
Gino will be the death of me, I swear.
All right.
All right.
I've
So
never heard him referred to Gino before. I've always just said Zilla.
Gino.
Is it because like he's not Godzilla, like, or what is it?
Gino is
Gino?
Gino stand.
And I've always called him. Yeah.
It's
What's
Godzilla
the
in name
etymology
only.
of that?
That's what.
Godzilla
Yeah.
in name only.
Oh,
And that-
Godzilla in name only.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that makes
yes.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I just never heard that. I always just called him Zilla. So
Yeah. Well, that's the Gino is the unofficial haters club name, I guess. You know what I mean? The Godzilla fans call him that.
Okay.
But Toho officially dubbed the character's name Zilla. Is who
Toho
actually
said, "You know what? Fine. If you're not gonna behave, we're gonna take it away from you."
yeah. Well, when Toho dubbed the name, because they actually they have the rights, the majority rights for even that character, for Gino.
Yeah.
Which is why he's in Final Wars. Like TriStar had no say so whatsoever. They couldn't say you can't put that in Final Wars. They're like, we own most of the rights for this character, so yes, we'll use what we want. That's why they changed his name to Zilla, because they felt that they took the god aspect out of the creature when they did the '98 film.
Yeah.
That's they even
They would be
refused to call him
absolutely
Godzilla.
correct. And
All
Toho
right,
would be
so
100% correct.
Oh yeah, that's just is what it is. We got it. It at least helped in some aspect. But all right, so great episode, man. Thank you again, RJ, for joining for this one. Are you going to be now next? The next episode this month is Chud. So we've got Chud, which is going to be super fun. Cannot wait to do that one. I actually almost watched it the other night, and I was like, "Sarah, you gonna watch?" I was like, "I'm gonna watch John Goodman." She loves John Goodman. Absolutely loves John Goodman.
Which one is Chud again?
Chud's the sewer guy.
Oh, that's okay. Well, the only knowledge I have of Chud is from the Jordan Peele movie Us, but it's just a small reference. But
Oh,
that's
yeah,
all-
yeah,
I don't know
yep.
if y'all seen it, but yeah.
Super great 80s monster film. Love it. But it's John Goodman from Roseanne and Big Lebowski. It's his first movie appearance. He plays a cop in it, and he gets killed. He's in it for like one scene. Does a great job in that scene. But I told my wife today, I'm like, I'm gonna watch a movie with John Goodman in it. She's like, what is it? And I'm like, Chud. She's like, isn't that weird monster movie you were watching? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I don't want to watch that. I'm like, come on, it's got John Goodman in it. And she's like, no.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
I tried. But so yeah, we got Chud next, and then after that, we got Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, 1991.
Yes. Gonna be good.
Ruben, or RJ, will you be around for that one? Are you joining for that one?
What day did you say?
It won't be this one.
July.
It'll be the next one.
Yeah. I'll as far as I know, I'll still be here. So yeah.
Sweet.
We'll plan on that.
Because I can't wait to. I'm borderline MST3K in this next one, man. I'm telling you. But right on. So yeah, so we got. Hope you guys enjoyed this one tonight. The next episode this month we've got Chud, Daniel Stern from Home Alone's in this one. Actually, he's a phenomenal character in that one. John Goodman's first appearance. Humanoid monsters underneath the sewers in New York. Super fun film. Can't wait for that one. And then we'll be back after that with Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. RJ joining us again, where we get all kinds of wacky craziness. We get a Japanese Terminator and time travel and 3 little Furbies that turn into Ghidorah. It's freaking weird, man. Like this is the odd man for the Heisei series, in my opinion. So can't wait to jump on that one.
Dorats, I think.
The Dorats, yes. Which they were golden Furbies, man. I'm telling you, that's when I first watched that. Like, I watched it not in '91. I mean, I watched that one like a few years later. It's probably like '94. It was when Space Godzilla came out. Because I got like Ghidorah, Mothra, Megagodzilla, and Space Godzilla all at the same time in one big order. And so Furby had come out, and I was like, dude, when I saw the Dorats, I'm like, these are just golden Furbies. Like, that's what these things are. This is freaking weird, So, anyways, but can't wait for that one. So, again, thank you guys so much for listening. Anybody got anything else they want to add?
Good to go here.
No, we're good.
All right. Well, this is Sludge.
And Mark.
And RJ.
And we got Ruben over here.
Y'all have a good night.